In a gated island community in Montreal, a biotech company is hired to maintain the fields of an exclusive golf club. They spray the area with their cutting-edge fertilizer, which melts the snow and keeps the grass vibrant and healthy during winter, allowing wealthy individuals to enjoy golf all year round. Meanwhile, security guard Dan, a self-proclaimed survivalist, is obsessed with preparing for the worst. He spends his days practicing various survival techniques, including starting a fire without matches. One evening, Dan's attempt at using a shotgun shell to create a spark results in a small explosion, singeing off one of his eyebrows. In the golf club, Dan's daughter Patricia works as a caddy, while Michelle, the CEO of the biotech company, golfs with a wealthy couple, showcasing the impressive results of their fertilizer treatment. Unbeknownst to them, the fertilizer particles are multiplying and contaminating the town's water supply. At a nearby studio, actor Jacques enjoys a glass of tap water before heading out to do some grocery shopping. At the store, the produce and tools are washed with tap water, and water is sprinkled on the shelves to keep perishables fresh. Suddenly, Jacques starts feeling lightheaded, but he brushes it off for the time being. Upon returning home, he immediately notices that his teeth have taken on a green hue and his stomach is growling. When he finally locates his wife in the bathroom, he has already transformed into a full-fledged zombie and proceeds to bite her, consuming her flesh and causing her to undergo the same transformation. Both of them, their eyes now green, come to a standstill in the bathtub. Meanwhile, in the club, Michelle and the couple make their way back to the main building, only to find it deserted. Suddenly, a man rushes out, warning them to run because people are sick. Following closely behind him are a swarm of zombie employees in hot pursuit. At that moment, a dog appears and the wife calls it over, but the animal viciously attacks her, biting her neck. Michelle and the husband swiftly throw the dog aside, only to be confronted by more approaching zombies. As the woman's body undergoes a transformation, both men race into the building and lock the door in an attempt to keep the zombies at bay. However, the dog manages to sneak in and bites the husband on the leg, so they confine it to another room. The zombies congregate at the door, pounding on it relentlessly, while the husband succumbs to the transformation and starts chasing after Michelle. In a desperate move, Michelle grabs a knife and seeks refuge in the kitchen. Elsewhere in town, Dan receives a call from an elderly lady who complains about her neighbors being excessively loud and engaging in frequent fights. Dan goes to a nearby location and rings a doorbell, only to be confronted by zombies who have taken over the residence. Simultaneously, an elderly woman nearby also transforms into a zombie and pursues Dan, who quickly seeks refuge in his vehicle and attempts to call for help. However, his calls go unanswered, and as the number of zombies outside his car window continues to grow, Dan becomes increasingly concerned. He tries contacting Patricia, but she is too busy evading zombies to answer his call. Feeling anxious, Dan decides to abandon his company car and instead uses his personal vehicle, which is equipped with a weapon, to search for his daughter. Nearby, Andre, a teenage boy, is preparing to give his sister Annie a drink of milk, but his mother reminds him to use bottled water to ensure the baby's safety. Andre rarely consumes water, preferring soda instead. Shortly after, the mother begins to feel lightheaded, which Andre attributes to her recent exercise routine. However, moments later, she transforms into a zombie and begins pursuing Andre, causing him to flee in terror. As Andre runs outside, he trips and falls, leaving him vulnerable to attack. Just as the zombie mother is about to reach him, Dan arrives on the scene and hits her with his car, injuring her but keeping her alive. Andre wants to assist his mother, but Dan intervenes and tells him to hide in his house instead. Dan explains that 911 is not responding and instructs Andre to stay hidden until help arrives. Despite the growing number of zombies, Andre refuses to leave his mother behind and decides to drag her back into the house, determined to protect her. In a hurry to close all the doors, he attempts to call 911, only to receive a recorded message stating that the island is under quarantine. Upon reaching the bridge that links the island to the mainland, it becomes apparent that the city police have installed a gate, preventing anyone from entering or exiting. In that moment, the mother tries to attack Annie, prompting Andre to pull her away and lock her in the bathroom. Observing water dripping from the shower head, the mother decides to enter the bathtub. Meanwhile, Annie continues to cry, causing the zombies to gather outside the door. Andre decides to shield her with pillows, a blanket, and a large stuffed animal until her cries can no longer be heard, causing the zombies to disperse. A few minutes later, Andre's cat returns to the house through the pet door, and a zombie reaches inside, almost grabbing Andre. Leaving the room briefly, the zombie ceases movement, only resuming when Andre returns with a golf club. Instead of attacking, the zombie opts to hide. Patricia takes refuge in the garage, where she finally manages to contact her father for assistance. Shortly after, Dan arrives and encounters a group of zombies outside. Without hesitation, he fights them, swiftly dispatching a few with a knife and incapacitating others before hurrying indoors. At the moment, authorities withdraw from the bridge entrance as military planes arrive to bombard the island's central areas, causing a power outage. The next morning, Annie's caregiver attempts to cross the bridge to get to work, but it has been destroyed. Meanwhile, Andre records the zombies through the window, pausing only to watch a press conference by the Minister of Public Security, who explains that the bridge was destroyed to contain the problem and assures the public that the situation is under control. Andre's phone then dies. He later checks on his mother, finding her covered in a green substance. Annie crawls in, and the mother tries to attack her, but Andre distracts her with noise and vegetables, leading her to follow him. They eventually reach the living room, where the mother accidentally knocks over the TV stand, causing the television to fall and kill her. Devastated, Andre takes the body back to the bathroom, noticing grass growing on her injuries. He grabs her phone, but it's broken, so he takes a ladder to the front door to survey the situation outside. Seeing that the zombies are just standing there, he grabs a golf club, puts Annie in a baby carrier, and opens the door, allowing the zombies to chase after the cat. With the entrance cleared, Andre makes a run for the grocery store while the zombies pursue him. The monsters surround him as the doors remain locked, but suddenly, a door opens, and Dan pulls him inside. Dan has been in this place since yesterday and has managed to create a small camping area, but he doesn't have a plan. All the boats have been taken, and swimming in the river would result in them getting hypothermia. Andre goes off in search of baby formula, while Annie explores and unexpectedly finds a zombie lurking behind locked doors. Surprisingly, it turns out to be Patricia, who has also been infected. Dan keeps her around in hopes that someone might find a cure for her later on. At the golf club, Michel has secured all the doors and is using a radio to communicate with his colleagues at the company. They inform him that experts are on their way and he must follow the established protocol. The zombie dog continues to bark at him, so he kicks it away. It is also revealed that he has killed his friend in the kitchen. Meanwhile, back at the store, Dan is still struggling to start a fire, so Andre simply uses a blowtorch. As they eat, they listen to Dan's favorite radio show, which attributes the zombie attack to eco-terrorists. The host gets the opportunity to interview the Minister of Security, but the politician evades questions and provides vague responses that reveal nothing. Suspicious of the government's intentions, the host believes that they will sacrifice the citizens to cleanse the area. In a desperate attempt for help, Dan decides to call the radio station and inform them about the survivors. The host is hesitant to take sides in the conflict without first understanding the root of the problem. Dan becomes frustrated and ends the conversation. He and Andre later discuss their plan to discover the source of the infection, which they believe must be a contaminated water supply. Patricia, whose head is contained in a cage, joins the group as they depart the store and encounter zombies covered in green goo. Dan is attacked by a young girl, but he refrains from killing her and instead pushes her away. The group manages to escape in Dan's car while being pursued by zombies. Armed twins sent by a biotech company arrive at the golf club and effortlessly eliminate the zombies. They find Michel, who has burned all documents related to his deal with the club, but he retains a small sample of the fertilizer. Michel takes one of their suitcases, which contains spheres with the cure that will kill the infection within 24 hours. When he grabs a sphere, the twins capture him and force him to eat the fertilizer sample before knocking him out. As the group drags the body away, a sphere falls to the ground. They then arrive at the water plant, where they decide to leave Annie in the car to avoid attracting zombies with her cries. Since they can't leave Patricia and the baby behind, Dan and Andre bring them along into the building, unaware of the hiding grassy zombie. Patricia senses its presence and runs to find it, followed by the guys. She jumps into the pool, and Dan quickly follows to rescue her. Another zombie appears, but Dan uses Patricia as a shield, and it retreats. In the chaos, Andre realizes the zombies won't attack each other, but the monster notices him and starts chasing him. While Andre flees outside, Dan tries to get Patricia out of the water, accidentally tearing her arm off in the process. Eventually, Andre hides in the car, and Dan follows, using Patricia to fend off the zombies. They then join the others in the car, and Andre discovers Patricia's phone and uses her severed arm to unlock it, noticing grass growing on the wound. Dan recalls the golf club's innovation and realizes that the grass is not a result of terrorism but of golfers. At the golf club, the twins destroy the spheres on the grass to eliminate the evidence. Dan's group arrives promptly and observes the peculiar smoke on the grass. Andre takes the initiative to document the situation. They hurriedly approach the front door, only to find it locked. Dan searches for an alternative entrance and chooses to scale the roof, allowing him to unlock the door for the others. Once inside, Patricia is confined to the storage room while Andre constructs a makeshift play area for Annie using chairs. Dan and Andre commence their investigation within the building and stumble upon a dog, still alive but covered in grass. In that moment, Dan begins to feel lightheaded, and Annie starts crying. Andre swiftly attends to her, but soon discovers that she has escaped from the improvised playpen. While Andre searches for his sister, Dan ventures down a dim corridor and uncovers a collection of explosives intended to destroy the building imminently. Despite feeling increasingly unwell, Dan persists and continues his search until he locates the room containing the timer connected to the explosives. Overcome with weakness, Dan collapses, resorting to using Patricia's arm to halt the timer just before his own eyes turn green. Outside, the twins remain oblivious to any detonations and re-enter the building to conduct further investigation. They eventually find Annie in the kitchen and feed her the fertilizer before departing. Andre diligently explores and encounters a zombified Michelle in a locked room before hastily retreating in the opposite direction. Finally, he locates his sister and promptly leads her away to safety. In a different room, he encounters the twins, who are blocking his path and attempting to force-feed Andre a fertilizer sample. However, before they can succeed, Annie becomes a zombie and bites off one of the twins' fingers. The other twin narrowly escapes an attack from Dan, but Andre pushes her towards him and Dan bites her. In the chaos, Andre steps on a cure sphere, releasing a smoke that spreads throughout the room and begins to take effect on Annie and Dan. As the smoke works its magic, Dan chases after Andre, but just as he's about to bite him, he senses Annie's presence and hesitates. Meanwhile, the twins take out their guns and shoot each other, killing themselves before one of them can fully transform. Andre then uses Dan's old-school phone to call for help, making a video that explains the situation and begs for assistance. Once the video reaches the news, Andre takes Dan to the storage room to be with his daughter, and soon after, the government sends army helicopters to clean up the area. A group of soldiers employs flamethrowers to incinerate any undead creature obstructing their path, while Andre ventures out seeking assistance, bringing along Patricia's arm for vaccine production. However, before Andre can reach them, another survivor approaches the soldiers and is promptly gunned down. As Annie's health improves due to the cure, Andre decides to conceal himself, as it becomes evident that the soldiers have no intention of saving anyone. Meanwhile, at the golf club, Dan also recovers, only to be immediately set ablaze by the soldiers, along with Patricia, when they open the door. The Minister of Public Security proclaims that the infection has been successfully contained and eradicated, yet he betrays his involvement in the conspiracy by being spotted sipping from a mug adorned with the biotech company's logo. Andre continues to wander aimlessly, discovering more deceased survivors who were fatally shot. Suddenly, he notices a boat in the river, manned by volunteers led by Annie's nanny, who promptly rescue him without hesitation. As they depart the island, Andre realizes that the arm is now useless and discards it into the water, where a fish swiftly takes a bite and transforms into a zombie. Thanks for watching, please like and subscribe for more video like this.